Okay, let's take Judy's question and then we'll intersperse the rest. I'm sure we can do it. We have plenty of time. Can you have to unmute. You might have to do that, Paige. Okay, great. Perfect, Judy.
Here I am. I'd really like you to expand on how to ask for what you need. That's brought up such great conversations, but also what I'm getting is you don't expect to get what you ask for unless you ask what you need to provide for them to be able to provide it, if I'm getting the gist of it. So if you would just expand on that, I would absolutely love it.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. And I'm going to give a bit of a historical answer that might help illuminate for everyone why this is such a struggle. Before I started studying men, and from my first marriage, I firmly believed that men either didn't care what you needed, like, so what if you need that, or were actively withholding it. So they knew you needed it and they held it back because they knew you needed it. And I was certain of it, absolutely certain of it. I was sure that that's what happened in my first marriage, and I was pissed. And then when I started studying men, I was shocked because it happened pretty soon in the journey for me to find out that men really do care about what you need. They really do care, and they care that you have what you need. And but at that time I thought, but they just don't know what it is. Okay, the problem is they care about what we need, but they don't know what it is that we need, so we need to tell them. Okay, that was the next step. But then I learned a whole bunch about single focus. And so when you tell a man what you need, matters that he's focused on finding out what you need and figuring out if he can give it to you. That's the focus. And if you ask for what you need at any other time than that, all bets are off. And so hence the part in the Queen's Code that's the whole step-by-step process of asking for a time to talk, and then expressing what you need, and then expressing what it would look like, because found out when I'd say what I needed that men would interpret what I said and do what their interpretation was. And that had me start thinking, oh my gosh, what if all this time men have been trying to give me what they thought I needed? Oh boy, that rewrote history. Like with my father, that my father was always trying to give me what he thought I needed, right? So then when we developed the Understanding Love and Commitment course, and a man's belief that he can give a woman what she needs is one of the 12 things that makes her a right person to commit to. Okay, awesome. But how does a man figure out what a woman needs? And then that just blew the roof off, because I found out that all men have things that they have already decided that all women need. They've decided. They've decided what all women need, and then they're gonna give that to us. But it doesn't occur to them to check with us. Are you like all women? Do you need this? It doesn't occur to them to do that. Just like it doesn't occur to us to check with men. Do you need this? Do you value this? And then I found out men assume that women need what they have. If she has it, she must need it. So can I afford to give her car? Can I afford her house? Can I afford her travel? Can I afford her horses? So they look at what we have, and then they decide whether or not they could give us that. And the first time I told a group of men that, no, women have a lot of stuff that we don't need. And we certainly don't need it again. We already have one. Their mouths just dropped. Just, what? And then the next way that they decide what you need is by what you talk about. And men don't know that women don't speak necessarily committedly. So if someone's talking about all the places they went to in their past, they think he needs to be able to afford to pay for her to go to all those places in her future. And I know a couple that actually this exploded their relationship because they go out to dinner and then he'd drive her home and they'd go by this house on Sunset Boulevard in Beverly Hills. And every time she'd say, I want a house like that. And when he started thinking about asking her to marry him, he remembered that part and calculated. He looked up the value of a house like that and what he would have to do to be able to afford a house like that. And instead of asking her to marry him, he broke up with her without ever talking to her about it. Because there's this prohibition we have that we talk about in Lux, don't ask and don't tell. So as all this came together, right? So it's not only that we tell them what we need, but we also have to describe what it looks like and even maybe say what it isn't. We have to be very specific in a way that we usually don't need to be with women. Women understand, take out the trash. They know it's a 6-step process, but we have to spell it out. And so then the next thing that happened was, okay, men do want us to have what we need. We just need to make sure they understand what it is. And then we have to find out what our part is. What do you need from me to give you what I'm asking for? And then anything you appreciate, you get more of. So how would you like to be appreciated for this? So that got all clear until my husband blew it up one day when we were talking about something he provided for me, which was awesome. What he provided for me was I never had to buy gas. He figured out how far I was going and he made sure I had enough gas all the time. I didn't even look at the meter on the gas on the phone. I've had to teach myself to do that since he died. And I asked him how he wanted to be appreciated for that. And then he blew my mind. He said, if you took it for granted, that would show me that you know who I am. Well, what? Taking something for granted could be a form of appreciation, could be a form of respect, never questioning that will be there. Who are these people? Which I've only asked that question probably hundreds of thousands of times. But then as I was teaching women about how to ask men for what you need, then it got to the next problem. But I don't know what I need. How am I supposed to know what I need? Right? How am I supposed to know what I need and how to describe it? How do you distinguish what you need? So the being extraordinary as a woman and being extraordinary as a man, which are part of what we call the being extraordinary level, and they're included in the Mega U package, is all about how to figure out what you really need and what you need it for. What would make it worth you arranging your life around providing it for yourself, and what would make it worth it for someone who cares about you to give it to you. So that's a long process that happens over many, many videos in being extraordinary as a man or being extraordinary as a woman. And part of what's in that course is I then discovered a next level of this is years now, right? A next level where a woman said to me, my boyfriend doesn't give me this. And I said, have you asked him for it? And I said, no. I said, well, you have to ask him for it. She said, I can't get past what I think of myself that I need that in the first place. What? So there's another part of being extraordinary as a man and as a woman, distinguishing that our relationship to having needs in the first place actually creates a whole string of resistance to or conversation about and demanding what we need that we don't even know that's going on. We're just doing what we're doing and we have no idea. So for example, amongst women, more than 50% of women, their relationship to their needs are that they're reasonable and justified. This is reasonable. What I'm asking for is reasonable. And that is actually what determines how they present their needs. So they start with the justification of why the person they're talking to should provide this for them. There's a song that's all about everything, all of the wonderful things she does, right? All of the wonderful things I do justify what I'm asking from you. But men aren't motivated by justification. They're not motivated by the past and everything you've done in the past, and therefore you should do this for me in the future. It's not how they work. So, and we figured out, what are they motivated by? And you know, from the Queen's Code, they're motivated by providing. They're motivated, as Karen expresses, by the difference something will make in the future, not how you earned it from what you did in the past.
That's great.
Yeah, it's amazing. So, but that's just one of 6 points of view that we identified that people have about what they need. And what your main point of view is will determine how you behave. And this is all distinguished in being extraordinary as a man and as a woman. And it actually frees it up completely for people, to men and women, to be able to ask for what they need. And the men are so relieved, because it's even harder for them to ask for what they need than it is for us. They're just like so glad to be given an alternative. And it's a process, so I'm not going to try to recreate it in a couple seconds. So there was something you said at the end, about expecting it. Expectations are so, sometimes I call them deadly, sometimes I call them the weapons of mass destruction, sometimes I call them the mischief makers. But anything we think should happen or shouldn't happen without us having to do anything about it is going to cause trouble, because when it doesn't happen, we'll be shocked, and then we'll be hurt, or we'll feel disrespected, and we'll be pissed. And then that has a whole string of disaster afterwards. And anything that should never happen, that does happen, will be shocked and will be hurt or feel disrespected, and it'll have a whole string after that of disaster. So expectation is something, and we have hundreds of thousands of expectations, and we gain more every day. They're like bunny rabbits, they breed. Including one of the worst things that women do, and this is what Melissa's doing in the Queen's Code, is because as women, we don't want to upset anybody. We really don't want to upset anybody, because we're motivated by not upsetting people. We think men are motivated by not upsetting us. And so, as Melissa does in the Queen's Code, she's sure if her husband knows without a shadow of a doubt how upset she is with him, that he will stop doing what she doesn't want him to do and start doing what she does want him to do. She's certain of it. And that's why she's crystal clear and maintains it at all times, how pissed and upset she is with her husband, and is stunned that he doesn't change. But men would think they think it's dishonorable to do something in order to prevent someone from being upset, or to not do something in order to avoid them being upset. That's a dishonorable thing to do, and which is all part of who they are. So that's why expectations and thinking it's owed to us, or that we can justify why this person owes it to us, or if we have the point of view that we're weak and pathetic for needing that in the first place, which is the majority point of view for men, they just hate that they ever need anything. They think they're Superman, and there's no kryptonite, and they should be able to produce and provide and protect on fumes, on nothing. And they try to. They really, really try to. And it's why they end up grumpy and cranky and mean and disempowered. Okay, did I cover enough of it for you, Judy?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, Alison, I was watching a movie last night, a war movie, and I was watching how the men run in to the fight and the women all run away from the fight, and how this idea of dishonorable to stop doing something to stop someone from being upset is like exemplified in that scene, you know?
Mhm.
Like men won't run away from someone that's angry at them or run away from the situation. And women will, like, we are so motivated to not upset people. There's
Okay, but hold on, you just said something that isn't
okay,
true. You
okay,
just said something that's so not true.
okay, correction.
Because the difference between the movie and relationships is there's something at stake in that fight that they're willing to die for. They're willing to die for in that fight, whether it's the cause, whether it's their relationship to the men they're fighting with, that they would die for them, whether it's their duty to their country, whatever it is, they're willing to die for that. And they are not willing to die, willing to dishonor themselves in order to have a woman not be upset. Their point of view is they can't control how we feel. So they're not going to try to control how we feel. How we feel and how we react is mysterious to them. And they're not, they give up on fixing it. And so if I talk about this in Connecting Through Conflict, which is a program that I recorded last month, we literally, men avoid fights because they know it could escalate to death. So they avoid conflict. And when a woman is in fight mode, he may not run away, but he will go away. He will shut down, and he might disappear physically, or he might just disappear before your eyes. So it is, beware of the corollary. You got to look deeper at how strong the instinct is to protect, and what are they protecting. And too much of what we've done as women is convinced men that the wisest thing to do is to protect themselves from us.
Yeah.
That's what emasculation has taught them. And that's what we have to undo, man by man, relationship by relationship. We have to stop attacking. And when we stop attacking, then they can protect us, or even better, they can provide for us.
So I had this question from one of the men is actually related to the
Okay.
answer that you gave. So I want to bring this question up. I think it's really good. He says, my wife and I are both in the course. We have a great relationship and she's very independent most of the time. But since learning about asking for help, in my opinion, she's asking for help too often and asking to do things that I know she could do herself. And it's taking away from my focus on things I need to do. How can women find the balance between asking for what they want and what they really need? And what is my best response when it feels unbalanced?
Yeah. What a great question.
Yeah.
So I may have said this before. I believe in everyone's right to defend themselves, and it's best to get ahead. So just one possibility is, honey, I have this much time in a day, or this much time in a weekend. I have no space during the week to help. But I have this much space to help. And what I need you to do is decide how you want to use that. Because certain things you ask me for, I think you can do yourself. And I don't know what difference I'm going to make unless you tell me. And certain things I can tell that you need my help. But it's interesting because men often think we can do ourselves things we actually can't do for ourselves, because men completely underestimate how strong they are. And they have they can't even conceive how much physically weaker we are than them. And so there are things we'll ask for help for that they're like, just do it. And they don't know we can't unless we show them that we can't. So this is the rest of the answer to Judy's question, that the most important thing to do in order to be able to have men provide for us what we need is an incredible amount of clarity about what we need and what we need it for. We have to get so clear about that in our own heads before we ever open our mouths. And that's where most of the work is becoming clear. And then there's this other thing we have to do, because men are so sensitive to sincerity, meaning that there's a congruency between the words and the feeling. And so the thing we have to do, and this is so tricky, is we have to commit to what we say we need. We have to commit to it before we ask them to commit to it. And how you'll know you're committed to what you're asking for is that you'll have a plan B. If he can't provide it or is unwilling to provide it, what will I do? And if the answer is I'll just be pissed, you have not committed to having that need met. When you have a plan for how you're going to get it met as a plan B, then you know you're committed. And men feel commitment, and they feel a lack of commitment. And because we're so afraid of having needs in the first place and afraid of presenting them, instead of committing to what we need, we do what I call fishing. We go fishing. And one of the things that distinguishes fishing and people who love to fish is that they're willing to come back with no fish. And when you're committed, you're not willing to come back with no fish. Okay, I understand that you're unable to provide this for me. Okay, so I have a plan B. I'm wondering what you think about it. You can still be in partnership. Or, okay, I can see you're unable to do this, or I can see you're unwilling to do this. The sacrifice on your part is too great, and I appreciate that. Is there anything that I could do that would have it be worth it to you to do it? Or is there any way I could mitigate the sacrifice on your part? And it's not a negotiation or compromise. They both have an aspect of you give up something important. And what deal making is about never giving up what's important, but it's about giving up everything that isn't important. But again, we have to get clear about what is important and what isn't. Okay, that's all. That's what I'm going to say about it for now.
And so this is another question that came in was around what if when a woman's asking her husband and then the husband is saying, well, you don't really need that, and validates, what happens in that situation, and what's the best way to respond?
Well, it depends on what she's already done. If she hasn't said what it would provide for her.
Yes, she's already said that.
She's already said that. Well, then there's a question, did he believe her? Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we teach it's towards the end of the Understanding Men course, which is part of the essentials, has to do with being believable. And because men trust facts, not feelings. This is early on in Understanding Men. Men trust facts, not feelings. And a fact is information that comes from a credible source. And unfortunately, because of women's relationship to communication and because of what diffuse awareness does to us, we tend to not be credible sources of information to our husbands, to our fathers, even to our children, because we're so incongruent. And for example, a woman will say, I'm tired. And he hears her, I'm so tired. But she doesn't go to bed. She doesn't lie down and take a nap. She doesn't even sit down and just say, I'm resting. She says, I'm so tired, and she keeps going. So he decides, that must not mean the same thing to her as it does to me. So now when she says she's tired, as Bert would say, it doesn't speak to his action command center. There's nothing to do. And Greg used to think it was funny. My husband, he'd think it's funny. He would measure the time between when I said I'm hungry and when I ate. And he thought it was hilarious. Until I did the Understanding Women course and found out about diffuse awareness, And that one of the things I actually needed help with, which seems ridiculous, I needed help eating. I need help stopping and eating, which most women do because diffuse awareness is so compelling. But they don't understand that. They don't understand we can say I'm tired, but still do the dishes, do the dishes, clean the bathrooms, all this other stuff. And then why didn't she go to bed? Why is she watching television? He doesn't know we have to zone out before we can fall asleep. He doesn't know that. Why don't you just go to sleep? They can just go to sleep. It's part of single focus. So the person who's already expressed what it would provide, and he may invalidate it in one way or another, it's either it could be because she's not credible, or it could be that he's defending himself. When we're asking a man to provide something that threatens something that he's protecting, like his time, his energy, his resources, his focus, his defensive reaction can often be, you don't need that. This is often fathers reacting to girls. Daddy, I want a pony. You don't need that. So it could go either way. There's more investigation to have. And you might start with, but what if I really do? And then he might say, well, what do you need it for? Well, because I'm tired. Well, but when you're tired, you don't do anything about it. So apparently that doesn't matter. I've been inconsistent. Okay, let me tell you some things. What happens to me and understand me better. There's some curiosity would be the best thing. Okay, how did we get here? And be curious instead of reacting and he's misbehaving and there's something wrong with him that he's saying that about what I say I need. And do I really need it? In a couple of weeks, I'm going to be on with Dennis Prager again. And the topic for the show we picked ahead of time, which we've never done before. And it's what do men and women really need? So, okay. Roxanne has her hand up. I'm going to take Roxanne's question and then I'm going to take some from the email you sent me. Okay, Paige? Does that work?
Perfect.
Good. Hi there.
Hi. So my question actually is just off of one of the things you just shared, because we had learned that one of the ways that you can emasculate men is by asking them for something, and then if they don't do it fast enough, doing it yourself, right? But then you mentioned the plan B. So where is the fine line, and how do you incorporate that without it being emasculating?
Well, your plan B is something that you've thought through. It's not something that you implement in the moment that he's moving too slow. Can I give you an example of what's going on in their heads?
Yes, please.
Have you ever gone through security at an airport?
Yes.
You have. Okay, good. So, there's a bunch of stuff you may have had to take off or not, and you get to the other side, and maybe you're, tying your shoes. You're putting your shoes on and you're tying them. And if you're like me, while you're putting your shoes up, you glance up at the monitor to see what gate your flight is leaving from, because trust that it didn't change, because they change a lot. So you glance up and you see what gate it is, and then you look at the arrows, or you might know the gate, and you look at the arrows and okay, we need to go right after this. Well, that's part of multitasking and diffuse awareness. We're gathering all our stuff while identifying which direction am I going from here. That's also part of how much we're motivated by feeling safe. We don't ever want to be standing outside of our car with our keys in our purse. That's scary. So we take the keys out before we leave the store. Well, we identify where we're going next while we're finishing up where we've been. Men don't do that. Men tie their shoes while they're tying their shoes. And then when they're all done gathering their stuff and they're satisfied they have everything, then they look up to see, where do we go now? Well, this was Italy. I didn't know this. I did what I do. So I was already off down in the direction of our flight back home. And Greg is trying to catch up with me, and he's pissed. And I'm pissed that he's pissed. And finally, I'm like, why are you so pissed? I was just going to the gate. And he said, how can I protect you if you're in front of me? Oh, okay. So we not only do we have to wait for the well, we have to wait for the hero. We have to wait for them to wrap their heads around things. We have to wait for them to commit to things. We have to wait for them to finish what they're doing and then do the next thing. If we want them to protect us and provide for us, we gotta wait. We gotta catch those impulses, which they're just instinct on a woman's part. We think it's because we're so much smarter. No, it's because we're so much more afraid that we're managing all that at once. And they just don't have that. They feel safe in the world almost all of the time. And if you want to wonder if you should participate in the Understanding Women workshop, go to the homepage at AlisonArmstrong.com, click on the free sample that's at the bottom of the page, and watch a 30-minute clip from Understanding Women about the different relationship that men and women have to safety. Because safety is the key to understanding the difference, all the differences between men and women, our relationship to safety. So plan B, yes, have a plan B. But the plan B is after actually something we teach in a Great Ask and Beyond, which is part of the Mega You package, which is when they say yes, but it doesn't happen, now what do you do? If you're committed to it, you don't go to plan B after it doesn't happen. You give them another chance and more clarity, and make sure, see if do you want another chance to do this? And then if it still doesn't happen, and you still believe they can do it, then you give them a third and final chance, and they know it's their third and final chance. So you clearly establish either that they're unwilling or unable to give you what they said yes to. So one part is getting to a yes, but think of all the things in your life you've said yes to, and then you didn't do, and the other person didn't follow up. Most of us are terrified of following up, but most of us interpret the lack of follow-up as, oh, it must have not really mattered to them. Can you see it?
Totally.
Yeah. So it's a combination of all these things, and getting what we need, getting clear about what we need, and getting what we need is complicated. And when I told men said, we're simple. Like, are you stupid? You've been studying men for all these years. Like, I've been asked, are you slow? It's like, no, you guys think you're simple, but you're not. It takes a 9-step process just for you to understand what we need. No, that can't be possible. So I sat down with a room full of men and walked through what's taught in the Queen's Code and talked about each part. And they ended up validating that each and every part was in fact necessary. And they were astonished. They're just sure they're so simple because they're so direct. If they're going to speak, they're direct. Their silence is direct as well. But this is what's kept me at this for over 30 years. I just keep finding out more and more and more and more. And men have limits. And one of the problems is, and I tell men this, and they're just like, I think they almost throw up, is I'm sorry, but when you got married, something happened. Your time became her time. Your money became her money. Your resources became her resources. So if she grants you free time, it's because she thinks she owns all of it. And we're the same way with the people we call children. We give them free time instead of apologizing for the parts of their life that we are going to take over and repurpose without their consent, because we think it belongs to us. They're just a child. Can you see it?
Oh, Alison, this is so illuminating. And I'm realizing, like, I struggle with the patience with like waiting for with all this, but I realize it's actually, it comes from a place of fear. like this fear of safety or fear of, and so I'm moving faster almost out of this anxiety that I never actually put together as that being the case, just thinking that like men are slow, but they're actually just not in a place, like in the movement of fear and anxiety that I have. It's blowing my mind. But Sarah has a question, and so do you mind if we jump to her before we go into the emailed questions? It's Ivan Keller.
Ivan. Yeah, let's take Ivan's. Roxanne, good?
Sarah.
Good for now?
She say
Yeah,
Ivan.
I think so. Thank you.
Yeah, it says Ivan on your thing, but it's you.
Sorry, I'm with my dad. We're all at Bear Lake together, so we jumped on the same call. Thank you, first of all, for allowing us to be part of this special time. It's been really enlightening, and I've just really enjoyed it. I have always felt like I am able to pretty well voice my needs with my husband, but I have actually I shouldn't even say that, because I've been working on it for 23 years, but I'm getting there. But I have 8 children, and 7 of them are boys. And so, as you talked about children, you just brought that up. I wanted to ask, so I feel like I spend my days trying to fulfill the needs and of my children. And I've loved learning about the single-mindedness and I need, I get, and I feel like, I have that all around me all day long. And so, like, in my pod, I was telling the ladies that sometimes, I didn't go to the dentist for years because I have a problem with self-care, because I am just constantly giving.
I'm gonna interrupt you right there, because I need to know your question, and you don't have a problem with self-care. Human beings suck at self-care. It's not your problem. It's a human problem. Just so you know. So that's why I interrupted that sentence.
Oh, good. Thank you.
No, because it's the big, the because is the real because. What is your question of me?
Okay, thank you. I felt like I had to kind of give you the little bit of background.
I know.
So my question is, how does the parent-child relationship differ when you're trying to express needs? Because I feel like I tell my children, I need you to do this job. I need, so that our house can be clean, so that we can all enjoy this space together. And I feel like I've made myself clear, but then I don't understand why it's hard for them to understand that I need them to do jobs and to help around the house. And then I feel like I'm kind of like this slave to all these different people that are just taking care of their own needs. And then I'm neglecting my needs because I'm trying to make sure everybody else is happy. And then, most of the time I'm like fine with it. But then every once in a while I'm like, I'm not fine. I'm like gonna die if nobody else helps me around here,
Yeah, but what's your question?
My question is, how do I express my needs in the parent-child relationship versus, like,
I got it.
I guess with my husband it's easier because I feel like we have this commitment, we have this understanding, and so it's easier for me to be like, this is what I need, and then understand what he needs. But I have a stewardship to my children, and I respect that, but I also think that they have a stewardship.
Can I interrupt you?
Yes, please.
May I use what you've just done as an illustration that will help other people?
Sure, please.
Okay. So if for anyone who decides to participate more in the curriculum we have at PAX, I have 4.5 hours of what we're doing here. I do it by telephone, not by Zoom, that I spend with people that are in our curriculum. 3 hours with people in the understanding level, 2 90-minute calls, and 1.5 hours with people in the being extraordinary level, which is a whole other level. And Mega U contains both levels. The essentials is the first 3 in the understanding level. And so I answer questions for hours and hours. And then I spend 4 more hours with people participating in Quest, answering questions. And what you've been doing is what women do. And even men do it sometimes. We're sure we have to describe the background. We're sure we have to describe the situation. We're sure we have to give every bit of information that we think the other person needs to know in order to be able to give us what we need. We're sure that we know what they need to give us what we need. And so without asking, we provide for them what we're sure they need to give us what we need. Honestly, you could have asked at the very beginning, and every person could do this. You could have said at the very beginning, how do you ask for your needs in the parent-child relationship versus in husband and wife? And I could have answered the question the same way because of how much background I have in it. So I'm saying it to everybody because the instincts, can you see how much you were wrestling with a tension in your body that compelled you to tell more? Even though I kept asking, what's your question? You were compelled to give me more background, more description, more how you are, more how they are. Can you feel it in your body?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that tension, that thing I got, but I got to say this, but I got to say this, but I got to say this, that tension is human instinct. And because I'm female and because I have sufficient estradiol in my brain, I could follow everything that you were saying. I could keep most of what you're saying and still pay attention to that I didn't know what you wanted from me yet. I could do that. Because men focus on, so what's the problem? So what's the question? After a while, they give up. They're like, I guess there is no point. I guess there is no question. I guess I'm never going to know what the problem is. And their brain is trying to figure out how the heck are we going to remember all this? And their brains aren't built to remember all those details without a context. They've got to have a context. It's like a basket before you just hand them a bunch of fruits and vegetables in the newspaper. So I'm just bringing it up because this is the thing that will undermine everyone, is thinking we've got to say more than is on that page. How to help a man understand what you need. And no more. This is what I need. This is what it would look like. This is what it would provide. If you're willing to provide for me, what do you need from me to give it to me? That's all. That's at the beginning. That's all. And if we give them more than that, it wipes them out. They got nothing left. We've used up the time and space and energy, and they got nothing left to help us. So this is a really tricky thing to do. And we actually use neuroscience in our Understanding Men course in order to cause women's brains to be able to get to the point, because we're not built to get to the point. That's why all that tension. That's why, like, having to say and having to say and having to say, it just works like that. And it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with this. And it's usually fine. Amongst women, it's fine because our brains work differently. But
can I jump in for a second? Because what I noticed is I was like into the story, you know, and I was like connecting with her, right? So it's so interesting how women's brains go, oh yeah, I totally care. I connect. And men would be turning off, right? Yeah. So it's so fascinating to me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and this is part of, I mean, Paige completed the Lux course over the weekend because I told her that's the best next place for everybody to go. So she wanted to experience it. And one of the things that we do in Lux is we actually, and it's phenomenal, we release the need to be understood. And the need to be understood is what drives all those details. Instead of, what if a man is willing to give you what you need because you say you need it and you proved that you're credible without understanding why you need it? I was stunned when that happened in my relationship with Greg. I called him up and I said, I'm at Office Depot and there's a bookcase that I need, but it's over $200 and I wonder if I could buy it. And he said, well, your question gives you the answer. I'm like, what do you mean? He said, you said you need it, so get it. I had gotten to the point where he believed that I only asked for what I really needed. He didn't have to know anything more about it. If I said I needed it, okay. Because trust had been built that I didn't ask for things just because I wanted them, that there's actually a really good purpose for everything that I asked for. So it takes time to get to the place where you don't need very many words. But it takes building the credibility of, this will provide something significant and you'll see the difference in me. So in answer to your question, it's Sarah?
Mhm.
There, okay. Thank you for being willing for me to do that. I probably was uncomfortable. Thank you for being willing for me to do that. It matters a lot, and we practice this. I mean, before I came here, I spent an hour and a half saying, okay, where are you participating from and what do you want from me? And because it's a being extraordinary level, almost everyone went straight to, what I want from you is, and they could do it. And then I know if I need more detail. Wait, I have a question about that, right? So, because I know if I can answer the question or not, right? So the thing about how does it work in your relationship with your children depends upon the paradigm in which you're raising your children. So there are parenting paradigms where have an operational phrase, because I say so. And that's very normal. And there are parenting paradigms where the parent is serving the child all the time, that they think that's their job, is to serve the needs of the child. That's another normal paradigm. And I mean, it is beautiful. I was searching for something else, and I'm passionate about partnership. So I had an experiment of 3 kids, of what would it be like to raise them in partnership. So I would have a needs conversation with them exactly like I would with my husband. And I was ruthlessly consistent. Like, they would say, Mom, Mom, can we go to the movies? Can we go to the movies? And I had to think about that. Oh, come on, let's go to the movies. And I'd say, you can have a no immediately. Yeses take time. Oh, it took them a while. And then they'd say, why can't we go to the movies? I said, if you ask me why we can't go, I will tell you why we can't go. I recommend you do this. Mom, would you consider taking us to the movies this afternoon? Now, what mom wouldn't at least consider it? And then I explained to them exactly what happened in my brain. And now I'm considering, how could we do that? What would we have to do to go to the movies this afternoon? And because I want to give them what they're asking for. I literally taught my children how to manipulate me. You could use that word if you want. But I was really teaching my children to partner with me. And the other thing that I did, and I recommend this for everybody, whether it's as a mother, a father, a wife, a husband, a boyfriend, figure out the short list of what you are committed to being accountable for to your children, that they can count on me for this. And I'm gonna do everything I can to provide that. I'll acknowledge when I failed, but if it's not on that list, I'm not trying to be accountable for that. I'm not going to kill myself over that. I'm not going to sacrifice myself over that. My short list, I will sacrifice myself for. These other things, no, I'm going to the dentist. and when you figure out that short list and what you need, then that can be shared with them. So at the top of my short list, what I wanted to provide for my children was patience. That's what I wanted. I wanted to be patient with them. I know how much it hurt me, my mother and father, whenever they were impatient, how hurt I was by that. So I wanted to provide patience. Be patient. Well, what fills my patience tank? Sleep. So that's how I came to have a 7-year-old boy with his 2-year-old sister standing outside my door saying, shh, if we wait until it's a 7, she'll be patient. Because I taught them that. Sarah, something else I taught them was how to get the monsters out of my head. And it got so that I didn't even know I was upset. I didn't even know I was frazzled and fractured until I realized there were these little fingers going like this. Just going like this and going like this. And finally I realized, oh. And we called it getting the monsters out of mom's head. And they would just, I don't know about you, but touch my head, touch my hair, I'm gonna melt, right? And I like, then I would realize they couldn't see that I was fractured before I even knew I was, and they knew the cure and they were implementing the cure. And I mean, so many things I taught my kids about how to manage their mom and get the mom that they needed. And just straight up, this is how you get the mom you need. This is how you get the mom you need. And then they would implement it and it would work. And then it became how they interacted with me. And it's still to this day. And my son's gonna be 35 next month. So I just would invite you to use exactly the same thing with your sons and even with your daughter. And if it's individual to a particular one of your sons, what you're asking them for, versus what you're asking them all for, you could ask them all individually or all in a group. And there's an important distinction in it, and I can't go into it. It's part of a course called Extraordinary Choices. But are you asking them for help, or are you asking them to become accountable for something, count-onable? So you're asking them to help with one of your jobs, one of the house's jobs, or are you asking for them to take on being accountable for it being their job, that they're in charge of everybody getting in the car in time to go to school, that person's in charge of that, that person's in charge of making sure everybody has their sweater? And it's good to have it be something they're already naturally doing. They already are naturally paying attention to. Oh, you always notice who doesn't have their sweater. How about we put you in charge of that? Would you be willing to provide that for the family? What would you need from us? How could we appreciate you? You can do the whole thing. And young people, I don't call them children because I puts our head in a different space. Young people are capable of becoming accountable for things, I would say around 3 years old, depending on what it is. They can become accountable for it. They're little people in construction, as we all are. Okay, I gotta keep going.
Thank you.
You're really welcome. Ooh, love the sign language. Have you raised your children with sign language?
Yeah.
Hot. That is so hot. Good for you. Okay, just so much they can understand before the words connect. All right. So Paige, I'm gonna check the questions that you sent me, and some are relevant and some are not. But I can at least give short answers. So number 2, we already addressed. Number 6, is it typical for single moms to feel exhausted by the weight of being accountable for providing financially for their kids? What's the remedy for that? The answer is it's typical for all moms, single or otherwise, to feel exhausted by providing for their family. And it's because our instincts cause us to put them first. And in all cases, instead of, there are certain things that we need to maintain our own health and well-being. Sarah, you were talking about that. There are certain things that we actually require in order to be good partners, to be good moms, to be good wives. We require that, or we can't. We just can't. We can pretend patience and pretend compassion and pretend caring and go through the motions, but we're not really there. So, but we all sacrifice ourselves. It's one of the biggest instincts of a parent is to sacrifice themselves, and we go too far. It's appropriate to sacrifice ourselves so our children survive. But we sacrifice ourselves so many of our children have their every women want, or the things we've decided that they need. Like, you know, I bought my kids what I wanted for Christmas when I was a kid and it didn't get. I always got girl things and I wanted boy things. I wanted building erector sets and Legos and they didn't give those to me. So anyhow, okay, number one, I'd like to use the making a deal technique in business negotiations. In my example, the other person was in the wrong. So I'm going to say making a deal does not apply to that situation. Let's make a deal applies to partnership. And there are very few businesses that practice any of the 14 elements of partnership. And let's make a deal is an expression of a quality that partnership requires called authenticity. And mostly in business, we have to be inauthentic. We have to hide. We have to pretend. We have to bluff. So I can't go there. We have a practice of partnership in business. It's run by my best friend. It's called Partnership Works, but businesses have to be an extraordinary level to care about partnership instead of the normal adversarial way of doing what they do. So I'm sorry, but it doesn't apply to that. Number two, what if he says you don't need that? We did that. 3, how do men pick who they will hit on? I would encourage you to read Making Sense of Men, which is the only nonfiction book I ever produced. It's inexpensive, takes about 4 hours to read, and it distinguishes the kind of attraction that men experience. And who they pick they'll hit on are the women for whom they have only sexual attraction, what they would call physical attraction. They don't have an emotional, mental, intellectual, spiritual attraction to that person, which is why it's so awful. But we inspire it a lot because we're instinctually and culturally taught to inspire that kind of attraction. It's worse, it inspires the wrong word. Instigate, aggravate. Number 4, how do you start trusting men again after being with someone who has a sex addiction and has betrayed your trust in every way? I would say you have to start with restoring your trust in yourself, that you will have and hold healthy boundaries, and that you'll trust yourself when something seems off, and that you won't keep giving people unlimited chances. The way that I put it is love is unconditional. I love people unconditionally. Spending time with me is conditional. Being a part of my life is conditional. Being my lover is conditional. Being my boyfriend is conditional. No matter how much I love him, it's conditional, and he knows the conditions and that he has to uphold them. And he knows that he has to do that because of how congruent I am with it, that I really will give him up if he doesn't, no matter that I'd like to spend the rest of my life with him. So you start with trusting yourself. You start rebuilding the trust in yourself, And then you get clear about your boundaries. You get clear about your ultimatums. There's a course called Own Your Ultimatums. And as you are more clear and certain and honor yourself no matter what, the people who aren't going to give you what you absolutely need that you're clear about, they will go away. They'll go away, and you'll be left with the people who are delivering on what you are committed to that you need. That's who you'll be left with. And you'll be able to trust it because they've demonstrated it. So trust is a very tricky word, and we want to be able to trust absolutely, and we can't. We can't trust people to fulfill our expectations. We can trust them to be who they are, which means you need to find out who they are because they'll be congruent with that. My husband could be trusted to eat chocolate every day, no matter what he said he was doing with his health. So I didn't try to trust him to not. Okay. What, in Alison's opinion, should you stay with an addict? Do they really change? I have a very different opinion about addiction than most of the world. And do they really change? Well, watch and see. Do they really change? So the first part of my answer is we're all addicts. Human beings are built to be addicted. Literally, our brains and our bodies interact in a way that it's beyond susceptible to addiction. And a good question is, what am I addicted to now? And how harmful is that addiction? So addictions are battles of will, where the addiction has taken over our will. So it takes a lot for someone to recognize the cost and then be unwilling to pay the cost of that addiction, no matter what kind of physical, mental, or otherwise agony they're going through. My boyfriend is now 2 months free of chewing tobacco. Talk about a difficult addiction to give up. Everything to do with tobacco, it's so oral, and that occupies so much of the limbic brain, but he's too much free of it. Why? Because it's required to be with me. It's required. I won't be with him if he continues that. And he knew when he was going to have to stop. He had a year's notice. And do they change? They do or they don't. And it's not going to be related to how much they love us. It's going to be related to, is it worth it to them and their entire life? My father was an alcoholic, and he kept dealing with his relationship to alcohol in order to get to raise my baby sister, in order to get to keep that family. And so I acknowledge my stepmom and my sister for saving my father's life. I thought he'd be dead at 50. Instead, he died at 83. So it's their worth it calculation. And you can't make it happen, but you can watch and see if it's happening. So should you stay with an addict? It depends on the cost to you. Are you going to stay with them, understanding what that addiction is? Yay, I answered those questions. Okay, I think I can take one more question before we show them what we wanted to show them, Paige. So good for you if I go with Monica? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Hi, Monica.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I've had so much fun being with you all. It's been delightful.
Awesome, awesome. So my question is really about just kind of having a deeper, better relationship with a sibling. And so I have a sibling who is female, very masculine, dominant in her traits. And so how do I connect with, because those things where we talk about the central focus, needing, can step over the trash and all of those kinds of things without it bothering her. And and she has all of that. And what difference does it make? But we're twins. And so
I can answer your question.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, good. So I need to start telling people the point. I have enough information. I can answer your question. Are you fraternal or identical twins? Oh, can you come back off mute? I don't need you to be on mute. It's better if you're not on mute.
Oh, awesome. I'm fraternal.
Fraternal twins. Okay. So can you talk to her about this stuff? Can you be out loud?
Yeah, I can talk to her in the moments, like just as yes, I can.
Okay.
But I be selective.
Okay. So a couple of things I'm going to tell you. One is it's best with almost all men, when you want something to be different, to talk to them about it when it isn't happening.
Yeah, that's her.
Yeah. So my one of my stepdads was a professional basketball player and basketball coach, and he would say, you do not coach when you're on the court. You coach and practice, you manage on the court. And so in other words, you don't try to change how well people do things when they're out playing the game. And it's a really good lesson. So when it's not happening, you talk to your sister about your desire to be more in sync with her and to be able to connect better, not in spite of your differences, but including your differences. And my youngest daughter, when she was, I think she was probably 7, we were alone together, and I went on to the next subject, and she said, can we finish this one first?
You. Right.
And I was like, oh, okay, I get it. And we had a conversation, maybe I think she was 9, where we agreed that everything went better if I interacted with her as if she were male instead of female. And she understood it. So if I didn't interrupt her, it worked well. If I waited for her to answer a question, it worked well. If I assumed that everything she was doing was important, nothing was ever frivolous, no matter how it looked like to me, which also works well with men, which is why I say I'm sorry to interrupt. So we agreed on that at 9 years old. Yeah, it's pretty funny because now she's 27, and a month ago when she came to visit me, she was so upset because I had interrupted her. And she's like, I don't understand. You've known since I was 9 years old. I need to be not interrupted. And I like, so could we talk about how you're inconsistent? And she said, no, we're not talking about me right now. We're talking about you. And then when we finally got through this, it was horrendous. I said, I got it. And I'm willing to employ, don't interrupt you, but you don't always need to not be interrupted. Sometimes you have conversations back and forth, just like a girl. And then you change unexpectedly into, this is important. I want you to know about this about me, and I need to not be interrupted, but you don't announce that. So the not interrupted part, I need you to tell me when it starts, and I need to tell you to tell me when you're done. This is the beginning of don't interrupt me. Okay, I'm done. You can say something now. And it was hilarious because when we got to the other end of it, she said, yeah, my boyfriend needs that too. From her, she had that deal with her boyfriend that she would tell when it was okay for him to talk. I said, yeah, but I need to know when you're starting. We ended up in giggles unwinding what happened when she visited. We were laughing so hard, and we've gotten so much closer just laughing about this clash of the titans. So I encourage you to do this with your sister. Like, could we try something? And be out loud about it. And I need a signal. And a few years ago, I said, I need you to tell me how you want me to listen to you. Because I was listening, what does she need from me? What does she need from me? And she's like, I don't need anything from you. I just need you to know me. I want you to know me. Okay. She doesn't really talk that loud ever, but it feels like that because I'm so sensitive to her. And I said, okay, so can I count on you to tell me how you want me to listen to you? Because it's not always the same. And she thought about it and she said, no, you can't count on that. I'm like, okay, so if you're not going to provide that, then we need to make a deal that if you just start talking without telling me how to listen to you, that I can interrupt you to find out how you want me to listen to you, and I'm not in trouble. And she said, okay. So it's this thing where we're just working out who we are over time. She's not 9 or 12 or 22 anymore. So I would say she's a grown-ass woman. And but the thing that what we discover in these interactions we're always return to is how much we love and care about the other person, how important. And she even told me, she said, you and Israel, that's her boyfriend saying, you and Israel are the most difficult relationships in my life. And they're like, wow, and you've kept him, so cool. All right, will you try?
I will definitely try that. Yes.
Okay. And one of the things that you might do if you decide to go do the Understanding Women course is you might invite her to do it with you. And then you can pick and pull from each part, whether I'm talking about hunting mode or gathering mode. And she can say, that works for me. Don't ever do that with me. That, yes, I would like that. Oh, I'd like a kind of that, but just like this, like she could actually, you could have a guide to how to navigate your sister. And
Okay.
you tell her what works for you too, which I encourage you to do that. It's not just one way.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, I will look through Paige's emails to see more about the Understanding Women course.
Awesome.
Yeah.
They probably won't be found in the emails, but we're going to go there now. So I can help with that. Okay.
Cool.
We're jumping
All
right
right.
into that. So that's perfect timing.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, and Paige, you got the links, right?
Yeah, I just got them.
Okay, good.
Hold on.
So you don't have to get them. I just wanted to make sure you got them. You don't have to do anything with them.
Okay.
So I'm going to share my screen with you all, which I think you have to give me, you have to enable me to share my screen page.
Okay, I'll do that.
And I'm just going to walk you through some things and tell you what Paige is offering for you and what we have available to you. And it's going to go from everything all the way down to one thing. So from bigger to smaller. Oh, good, it let me do it. All right, so I need to, oops, I need not do that quite yet. I need to go to the place that I want us to be. Okay, now I can share and be where I need to be. Okay, so for those of you who somewhere along the lines have thought, I want to live in this world. I want everything. The best way to get that is with what we call the Mega U package. And our students actually asked us to create a package like this. Like, can't you just do something where I get everything? So this is almost everything. And there's an event you can click on this page if you want to hear the why of this, why it's called Mega U, why it's a million times wiser. And what is good about Mega U is we packaged this all together and then it's over 50% off. And there's a payment plan. So it's going to start with, and you'll get these links from Paige, so you can read all of this page. But it's going to start with, and if you look at this, it's huge. And I got to create this like a prescription. Like, what would everybody need? And so you'll see on the left-hand side, and this is the order in which I recommend people watch these courses, there's a little over 83 hours of online courses. So you guys listen to a little more than 10 hours of the audio book. So that gives you a sense of how much there is. And it starts with Lux. And this is where Paige is starting. And Paige will tell you about a mastermind that she's offering to go with a month of Lux. And you'll get to do the exercises that we did in that course that it changes the way you think. It changes what you care about. It change in a really good way. It frees you up to honor yourself and then honor others, and even gives you a process of honoring, so you can do it in a methodical way. And we release a bunch of stuff that just messes everything up, like the need to be understood, or if we don't understand, we can't act. It's one of the things that we release. So it goes from Lux to Understanding Women, which is the one I was just talking to Monica about. And then from Understanding Women to Understanding Men. What'll happen is Lux is going to give you an entirely different view of what's actually happening in every relationship that you have, whether it's with a sister, with your young people, whether it's romantic, an ex, in the workplace. It will have you see what's actually going on in a way that changes everything. You end up empowered. Understanding Women, the videos will be of me teaching the co-ed course, Understanding Women. So you'll get to see the men's reactions to learning things about women where they're just agog, which will tell you what your men don't know about you. And then it will contrast it, because I'm teaching co-ed. Everything I'm teaching is being contrasted with what we understand about men. So it's a really good expansion of the Queen's Code. You'll learn things that aren't in the Queen's Code, like the difference in men and women experiencing criticism, and what it does to women, and why it doesn't actually get us what we need from men. So that contrasts, and it's good for people, and you get to pick and choose. Okay, I need that. Oh, when I'm like that, I need that. And when I'm like that, I need that. You can be so much clearer about what you need and why you need it and what it will provide for you, because I'm teaching it in the course. Understanding Men, you could consider it a workshop version of the Queen's Code, except for it has things in it that aren't in the Queen's Code. And like facts versus feelings, and what that means about the kinds of questions you ask men, or the worth it calculation, or how you become trustworthy. It gives you a whole step of trustworthy, and why men blow up when they feel disrespected, and how to show men respect, which is something women don't know how to show men respect. We know how to show them we like them or that we're mad at them, but we don't know how to show them respect. So that's just one of the things in Understanding Men. There's 11 hours of videos in Understanding. So there's 8 hours in Lux. There's 11 hours in Understanding Women. There's 15 hours of videos in Understanding Men. Then you get to graduate courses. So you have to have done Understanding Women, Understanding Men to do Understanding Sex and Intimacy. And that heals our history with sex to the degree that you're willing. And it has us understand how everything we've learned about men applies to sex. How does single focus apply to sex? How does providing apply to sex? It's hot. Honestly, it's hot. And there's a panel. So you'll see part of the filming in Understanding Men, Understanding Sex and Intimacy, and Understanding Love and Commitment are panels who are answering questions from the participants. It's so enlightening. So Love and Commitment is for people who are married. It's for people who want to be in a committed relationship. And it generates a whole bunch of clarity about the instincts that we're up against in trying to create a modern relationship, and the difference between what commitment means to women and to men. And it helps you sort out what would make someone a right person for you to commit some part of your life to. Extreme freedom is what I've developed for people to restore themselves. I've talked about that before, because I don't think you can actually damage a human being. I'm going to just say that about that now. Being extraordinary as a man or woman, and you get to pick which one if you sign up for the Mega You. And I've referenced those courses a lot, but it helps you to figure out, who are you really? Instead of who are you supposed to be, who are you really? And then what do you require in order to be that person consistently in your life, no matter what's going on? And it also teaches men and women how to be great at receiving, which, showed up in chapter 6 and chapter 7, that Kimberly and Karen need to become great at receiving. And both men and women, frankly, suck at receiving. It's something we all have to have the ability to do. And we unpack what's going on with that, and people end up with much bigger capacity for receiving. It's awesome. And then critical missing pieces are topics that showed up in the process of putting the rest of this online, which we had completed by 2017. They're things that I learned along the way. They're like, oh no, this is critical. People have to have this. Like our relationship to power, for example. And which is critical to understand how humans relate to power. Then you also get these audio programs. So you get the appreciation equation, which if you don't appreciate people in their currency, it's as if you didn't. The cure for complaining, whether it's your complaints or another's complaints. You probably know men's complaints put us under. I mean, they may sink at details. We sink at complaining. Coughing up the truth is how to prepare for telling somebody what's true for you, what matters to you, what you really need. How do you prepare to do that well? And then how do you deal with the outcome of that, the consequences of that? It could be called cough it up, blow it up, clean it up. It's awesome. A great ask and beyond I was referring to before. It's how do you take a yes and turn it into reality? How do you follow up effectively and graciously and even with compassion? And the live interaction calls has to do with those 3 calls times an hour and a half that you get to have with me. So 4.5 hours a month. And when you begin, you get the recordings of the last month's one that I did. So you can listen to the way I've answered questions even before you've begun if you want. Okay. And like I said, so it's half price. It's well over $4,000. It's close to $5,000 worth of stuff for $19.95 for 200 days, which means you have 2/3 of a year to interact with this material and cross-reference it and review it as much as you need to and interact with me. It's awesome. And there's a 10-pay plan. Now, if you don't want to bite off that much, then what you can do is you can start with the essentials. So one moment here. I'm making sure, Paige, that I'm going to the links you're giving people in case someone's writing down the URL.
I'll just put the links in. Is that okay in the chat? For the right?
Absolutely. Put them there, put them in the
we'll email these to you as well.
Yeah, however you like. I'm just making sure I'm going to the same pages. Yeah. So the essentials is understanding men plus Lux plus understanding women. And like I said, I strongly recommend you start with Lux and then go to understanding women and then go to understanding men. And Paige is going to tell you about the mastermind that she's offering in conjunction with Lux starting in the middle of September. And you'll get to be interacting with me on the phone if you join those live interactions. And then she's going to be working, we're partnering so that she can work through the exercises with you that we do in Lux that blow everything up. So the essentials, if individually, it'd be $1,292 is what it would cost you. It's $745 normally. Paige is gonna send you and probably put in the chat a promotional code that gives you $50 off of the essentials. So you get it for $695. And there's a payment plan for that as well. It's I think it's 3 payments altogether. The thing about if you use the payment plan, you get each course in the order that I recommend, whereas if you pay in full, you get all 3. And if you get tired of Lux and want to go over to Understanding Women, or to heck with what Alison says, I'm going to do Understanding Women, and then I'll start Lux in September when Paige is doing the Mastermind, and you can go back and forth between all 3 of them because none of them have prerequisites. So you can follow your light, as I would say. So there's a Lux is in the Essentials package, and then there's Understanding Men and Understanding Women are in the Essentials package. And with that, there's 3 hours of live interaction with me, 2 90-minute courses. And then last but not least, if you decide you want to come be with me in Los Angeles at the end of October, it's called Freedom from Being Ordinary. And we're going to the heart of the matter of the things that disempower us the most. And including the way we take everything personally that isn't personal at all. And the prerequisites for freedom from being ordinary are the essentials, and they're included in the tuition. So if you decide to sign up for Freedom from Being Ordinary, you'll get the essentials with it, and you can sign up for the Mastermind with Paige and do the Lux portion with her. Did I do it all, Paige? Do you want to tell them
So
what you're
good. Yeah, go and see Alison live in Los Angeles. It's just such a cool opportunity that it's coming up soon, and it's kind of perfect timing that if you want to go meet her in person and go and play in Los Angeles, like definitely look into doing that. And you can do 4 payments of a payment plan and $500 a day for what she does. It's just such a good deal. So
it's not $500 a day, silly. Not $500.
Isn't it like, yeah, basically if you break it into 3 days, it's $500 a day, isn't it?
Yes, you're right.
Okay.
Get
$500. Yeah, it's $1,500 for the.
Well, but you get $1,292 worth of prerequisites.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's a really good
a no-brainer. Go and do that because it's going to be so fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm like, I just did Lux and it is so awesome. I've done almost everything in Mega U. So if you have any questions about all of this, like go and go to schedulewithpaige.com and just set up a time and we can talk through what's the best thing for you and how to move forward. But here's what I'm really excited about and what I want to show you. And Alison, if you stop sharing your screen, then I can
oh, good.
share mine. And then I'll hop over to this because I like to, for the visual learners, then you can see this. But so those are kind of the 3 main things we're sharing is the essentials. If you want to do the essentials, if you want to do the live or Mega U, all of that, you can just add this mastermind. And the mastermind is starting September 13th. So we're giving you a bit of a break to kind of take a deep breath, but we want to keep the momentum going from this course. And so the essentials, again, it's Lux, which is that really like doing big releases and coming to a place that builds the foundation for all the other work. And then we're going to dive into Understanding Women, and then we're going to go into Understanding Men. And it's a 3 months, 3 courses. And with the essentials, no matter what, you'll get those 2 Q&A calls with Alison every month, every second week. and that price. But if you do the mastermind with me, then we'll be starting September 13th. It'll go to November, and it'll be the same time that we're going to be meeting together. And we're going to do workshop stuff, breakout groups, like talking, really sharing what's going on and applying it. And having gone through it myself, like I'm so excited to do this in this format, because just going through it and answering the questions myself, I'll kind of sneak my way out of doing some of the like reading and the finding the partner to ask the questions to. And so that just the accountability alone is such a big part. And so we're going to be practicing the words and doing the actual processes. So the depth of the application of these things is just taking it to such a different level. And so we'll be workshopping it, and it's going to be really fun. And it's going to be $400 for the 3 months. If you want to split it into 3 months, you can. And this, the bonus is I'll also have a workbook for you. So it's just really like organized, and we know exactly where we're at in the program. But even if you just bought the essentials, Alison has the questions and everything. I'm just going to, for our mastermind, create something. The main final bonus, if anyone's done a program with me before, I've done daily pods, and we're just going to do this for the first month of working through Lux. But if you're up for it and if you want to, I'll put you into a pod where you'll meet just 10 or 15 minutes every morning with your 4 or 5 people. But every morning you just say, hey, this is what I've done. This is where I'm going. This is, and it's just an accountability pod. It's a really fast check-in, but we have had such amazing results with the pods, the daily pods, and usually do Monday through Friday, but it's a way to really like just take your life to a whole nother level. And so I'm adding that in if that's something that you want to do. And so just if you want to do this mastermind, or you want to just do Mega U or the essentials or anything, just schedule a call with me. But just if you're ready to buy one of them, you can go to one of the links that I'm sending in the text. So Alison, do you have anything to add to all of this or share? I'm going to stop this. Or does anyone else have any questions? I know.
The only thing that there's 2 things I would add. One is I'm in awe of the support that you provide, Paige. In what we call a process of transformation, it starts with finding out why you have the results you don't want, and then getting new information and skills and points of view, and then ensuring that it exists in empowering context, that it doesn't get turned into some kind of manipulation. And then the fourth is what you could call a new good habit or new good neural pathways. And what you provide with the masterminds, and I didn't even know you did daily pods, has everything to do with new neural pathways, new behaviors, permanent change in your life. And it's why I was excited to do this with you. I'm excited to do it about Lux, because it is a complete game changer in being powerful in all kinds of relationships. And just thank you. What you do makes what I do more effective. So thanks for the amplification, my dear. And yeah, really. And the last thing that yes, you guys are clapping, it's true. The last thing I would say is I've loved being with your people. And so I'm saying this to you, Paige. I've loved being with your people. And to your people, I have loved being with you. I've talked about you to other people, and just your level of engagement and I said this to Paige last week, the openness of your hearts, even in the midst of pain, there's an openness of your hearts that is, it's a gift to me. It's a real gift. And I appreciate this time I've got to have with you, and hope I get to see you on my dashboard and your hand up and give you the microphone and say, okay, so where are you calling from and what do you want from me? So I hope we get to do that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. What a
Thank you, Mom.
blessing you are in the world. We talked earlier about how this stuff is going to be taught for millennia, and I believe it. It's such powerful information, and I appreciate you so much. And thank you for partnering with me and trusting me to bring this group together. And thank you everyone for playing full out and being here. And I love you all, and I'm excited to see where this journey continues to take us. So I'll stay on for a few more minutes for questions, but unless anyone has anything else, just send your love to Allison, and if you can hop off of
Bye, everybody.
your camera and just wave.
Mwah, mwah. Thank
hello.
you.
Thank you. So appreciate you all. Okay, so any questions just about what we talked about, clarifications? I know we went through so much stuff, but I'll just go through it one final time. Live event in October for Allison, if you want to go meet her, and the prerequisites is the essentials. So doing the mastermind with us is a great way to jump into all that. Just doing the essentials on your own, that's an option. I gave you the link there. Or if you want to do it with the support of the group, with the support of the workbook, of the pods, of the just discussions with this tribe, would love to have you to be a part of that. And if you want to go all out, go into the Mega U, and it's basically like Alison Armstrong University for half a year or 200 days. And you can really dive in there, and you can get the support to get going on that with the essentials with us in the Mastermind. So Jody, what's your question?
Well, it's just a curiosity. If anyone else through the course of this class, it's been sort of a rude awakening for me. And the awarenesses have actually made it really uncomfortable to see how backwards I've been doing things. And it's almost like it's gotten worse only simply because of my awareness of it. And I'm noticing, oh my God, I'm so horrible. Like I'm just, and having my brother living with me to practice and stuff. It's been painful and wonderful,
There have been times
I just wondered if anyone else. Yeah.
I've come to awareness and I went into the bathroom and cried for like 3 hours. Like it's
Okay.
really painful to recognize, oh my gosh, I've been doing this wrong for all this time, right? I've had someone in the class go like, this has made me think, oh my gosh, why didn't I make if I had known this earlier, I could have made my marriage work. Maybe I should make it work, right? Maybe I should go back and try and make it work. Like there's so much, it's a little bit of a mind, it messes with your mind, right? And so this is why the work is so, it's so courageous to do, because it is looking at yourself in the mirror and waking up, and that's courageous work. So just congratulations, and like I honor you for being courageous enough to do it and to be in the chaos before the new order. Because there's always chaos before new order. If I cook a meal, the kitchen's gonna be all messy. If I'm gonna build a house, but it's gonna be chaotic. And then there's this new order. So you're in the chaos. And that's why the tribe is so beautiful to go like, I'm in it, and we got you. So
thank you for doing this, Paige.
It's
so wonderful.
You're so awesome. Roxanne, go ahead.
So my question was just like if I wanted to start with the essentials and then later go to Mega U, do you know if she has some kind of a conversion plan?
She does. Yeah, we talked about that this morning. So yeah, definitely just you can always upgrade, and they have a discount for that if you want to go from essentials up to Mega U.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question. Great question. KJ.
And what would the pairing be like to do the Mega U and your mastermind? Because I saw the essentials with your mastermind, but what do you foresee if I go the Mega U route plus the mastermind?
Yeah, then it's just, and we can talk about that. Like I can give you a 20% discount if you do Mega U and then you do the mastermind. So like off of my price, but it's $400. So you'd get, $80 off. So if you decide to do that, just let me know and I can give you a discount off that, because we'd love to have you and get you like going and supported. And it is super nice just because her programs have a limited amount. So you have only 90 days to go through 3 entire courses. So I know for myself, I've bought so many courses online and then I haven't even done them even without a time limit. And then, so it keeps you on track and it'll help you get so much more out of it through doing it with the tribe. So yeah, that's a great question though, KJ.
Yeah, that's what I keep thinking about doing it with you, Paige, is it paces us, but it also provides this support, because it is so much information and some of it is like, I'm freaking out and this is really messing with me, or I'm having such a hard time, or I'm in total invitation about what the heck to do next. And then there's all this support through those pods. So I think it's a really—
And Brooke, do you mind sharing like the daily pod that you did in the last program, the Love is Letting Go of Fear program? Like, what was that like? Because I know it sounds overwhelming to hop on, but I really do want to encourage you to do that. If you join the mastermind, to do the daily pods.
Do you want to talk on that, Greg? In this?
Totally. I think I've talked to a couple of people who just recently were like, I miss my daily pod. And because what it provided for us was a check-in point, a focus, and really, like, we had to do it in the 10 minutes, maximum 15 minutes. And then we were like, okay, we're 15 minutes, we're done. So it didn't go on and on, but it really focused us in on what we did, what we were grateful for, what our focus was for the day, how we fulfilled on our focus from the day before. And then it was like, yay, go do that. And it's okay if it didn't happen every time, but it really also brought some awareness to like, wow, I'm saying a lot of things that I'm saying I'm going to do, and then I don't fulfill on. And so it was just a fantastic backboard, really effective short meetings once a day. And you choose what day, what time of the day works for your pod.
So it's typically just like in the morning, first thing, and we find a pod that works with the time that works for you. But I'll slow down a little bit because the beginning, just the pods train you to be intentional about your life. So you're going to come in and you first share your gratitudes, because that's how we start every conversation that we're learning. Like, this is one of the biggest takeaways I found from the Queen's Code is like, as I've been asking men and talking to men and like being curious about this and seeing how to go into these conversations, it's like the power is in the gratitude. If I start every conversation, like I had hard conversations even with Alison in this course, but I came in and I just first started with gratitude, and it set the whole entire energy of it. And that's how you're starting your whole day. Every day you come in and you're like, I'm grateful for this morning, and this is why, this is what my intention is, and this is what my, like, this is what I did yesterday to fulfill my intention. So it's just a really powerful way to step into a new way of being. Brooke?
One more thing about those gratitudes was so interesting to me, and like thought-provoking to hear everyone else's gratitudes. Wow, look at that person over across the country and what they're grateful for, and it expanded my gratitudes as